Welcome to the Till Death Did We Part podcast, a space where two hearts, two stories, and two journeys of love and loss come together. Each week, we share the raw, real, and sometimes surprising paths we've walked after losing the love of our lives. Join us, Kaylee and Kristen, as we explore the complex layers of grief, healing, and everything in between.
In this podcast, we're not just surviving, we're living, loving, and finding joy in the moments that matter most. So grab a cup of coffee or a shot of Fireball, settle in, and let's talk about what it really means to lose someone and how to learn to carry their love with you forever.
Let's just start over, Kaylee.
Well, hello.
Welcome back to the Till Death Did We Part podcast with Kaylee and Kristen.
Hey, everybody. So today's a big episode for us.
It is. We finally got another. Hold, please. Dogs, shut up.
Hold, please. That's our big excitement.
That's it. Yes.
Yay!
No, we finally got another widower on. One of my good friends in the widow community.
That's not what I was talking about.
Oh.
Okay. 5-0.
It is. Oh my gosh. Yes. It's our 50th episode. You guys.
Come on.
I totally forgot. I was talking to somebody this morning about how we're recording our 50th episode, and now that we're doing it.
Our guest today is excellent as well, but today's our 50th.
Today is our 50th. That is huge.
So exciting.
Because there's been times where I'm like, I don't know how long we're going to do this. I don't know. And to have been doing this as long as we have and to still have the support that we do and the guests that we do is so beautiful. And I'm so grateful to you for doing this with me.
It's so fun. Like
and
the
making
push-pull we've had too. Like,
yes,
do we keep it going? Do we not? Like, what do we talk about anymore?
Yeah.
But we always come back because we're like, nope, we're doing good.
We got to do it. So this is huge. And I'm so proud of us. And thank you
almost
all for
forgot
listening.
5-0.
My bad.
Oh, so funny. Before we get into our episode, though, of our amazing guest, who is a widower, tell me about your life, Kaylee.
Oh,
Let's talk about it.
It's going. It's going. Update from the date a couple weeks ago. We're still seeing each other. He's delightful. He's binge listened to almost all of the podcast already, which I think is very sweet.
I just love that he's doing that. Like, I love it. Take note, gentlemen. If you are dating a widow, binge watch this, or listen to it, because he cares and he wants to know about you and what it's going to be like. Hi, listen, we've given you all the tips and tricks.
It's super
love
cute.
it.
It's a really cute listen because everyone's like, when we'll go out on a date, he's like, oh my gosh, I was listening to Melissa's episode and that almost had me in tears. Or, oh my gosh, Kathy is so funny. I just loved listening to her talk. I love that he's like actually listening to everybody and taking in all the stories. So
I love this for you so much. I love that he is taking such effort into getting to know you and listening to, like, this is you and this part of you is not going anywhere.
I know. And he's very understanding about, like, he wants to understand it and learn about it, and it's beautiful.
So great.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Madison.
Oh gosh.
I don't know if you listeners have started watching that show yet. Brace yourselves, y'all. It is heavy, but it's
so good.
Beautifully done. Like, Michelle Pfeiffer, Oscar, give her Emmy,
100%.
whatever it is that you get for TV shows.
Because Oscar, whatever award it is,
give her all of them.
Amazing.
Her depiction of grief and widowhood is
spot
beautiful.
On.
So spot on. So well done. It's great. So the show is brutal. It is definitely a heavy watch, but it is very relatable and I think the most accurate depiction I've ever seen of
100%.
loss.
Like, you feel like somebody got it right. Taylor Sheridan, I don't know what he has gone through in his life that he made a show that is so spot on. Yeah. Like, you're only on episode 1, but like, I binged.
Exactly. Yeah, just to be clear, I've only watched 1 episode and I'm just enamored with the show already.
I binge watched that entire thing within like a day. And I don't know what he went through in life because he got it spot on.
Yeah.
Loved
So
it.
good.
Cried, loved it. A lot of emotions, but you're like,
Yes.
finally,
Yes.
someone
Which
gets it.
was
They're
very in
not depicting it
contrast
weird.
to so Reminders of Him, the book that I talked about a few episodes ago that I was going on and on about. The movie came out and I went and saw the movie yesterday, and I blame it all on that lead actress, and I'm sorry, girl. I hope you have a very successful career, but this was not it. She like no emotion. I was so disappointed. The rest of the movie was really well done, and I liked how true to the book they stayed. I was just like,
She didn't
girl,
sell it. Mm-mm.
no, not at all. I was so irritated.
Darn.
I know. But The
But
Madison
the
is great.
Madison,
Yeah, everybody go watch that.
it is so good. Oh my gosh, I love that there's finally something out there that just hits
Hits
it.
it. Yeah.
Like
Well,
this
and
it's what it's like.
I think it's crazy. So you had told me to watch it, and then the next day I come into work and my dad's like, "I started watching the show and I don't think you're allowed to watch it. Like it's really sad. It's really sad." And you and I talked about it yesterday. I was like,
I'm
"I don't
like,
think
no,
you
he
realize
doesn't
like
know.
that's
You lived
it
it.
is very sad, but that's literally my life. Like that was me. That is I felt all these this is
Dad,
accurate."
what do you think I went through?
Exactly. Like I know it's hard for you to good. I'm glad it's hard for you to watch. I'm glad that
Yeah,
you can
take
see
note.
these emotions being put in your face and feel them so
Uh,
heavily. So,
I can't wait until you get further along because there's so many more moments that you're going to be like, yes. And
I know.
some of the things that I did, I don't want to spoil it, but like, I didn't want to do the meet and greet line or whatever it's called.
Yes, when
So
you're
I
at
didn't.
the funeral.
And so
Yes.
you see things that she does. I'm like, see, it's
Yeah.
it's real.
Beautiful.
Yep. I can't wait for you to even get further in.
I know. I'll catch up. I'll binge watch. And I don't know if you saw the second season's already been recorded, so there will be
Yes.
a season 2. So,
Thank God. I wish there was more episodes though than 6. So Taylor
okay.
Sheridan, can we do like 18 episodes a
Yeah,
season?
come on.
Like you did an amazing job. And I know you're a very successful man, but can we get a few more
Come on.
into season 1? That'd be great. Or 2.
Yeah. I will listen to it all before our next episode, I promise.
Okay. Now,
Um Now,
now do you want to get in?
let's get into our 50th episode with the one and only Will.
And bring him on in.
Bring him on. Today we have Will with us.
Welcome, Will.
Hey guys, thank y'all for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Will and I have known each other for a couple years now. We met through Rooted, the group that I talk about all the time. We got to meet up in Vegas a couple years ago, and I've seen each other a few times since then. He's an amazing man, and I'm so glad that he came on to share with us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. It's an honor to be here. And I've not, like Katie said, we've known each other for a few years. And it's very funny to see where we are now versus where we were back then.
For sure.
And we're just totally different people now. But it's all good and amazing things. So
Yes, yes,
um,
we've grown
um,
up a little bit.
just a little bit, right?
Just a little. Well, if you want to hop into it, you can tell us like how you and your wife met and all that.
Yeah, so her name was Christina. Um, Christina was, somebody that I knew. I wasn't really acquainted with her that well. We were kind of in the same circle of like, it's like a social group of people that got together on the weekends. And, it was kind of one of those things like, hey guys, like I'm going to be at this baseball game. Who wants to come, and people would be like, oh yeah, like on Facebook, like, yeah, I'll be there. Or, hey, we're going to do karaoke on this day. Like, and so I was part of that like social group, and so like I knew of her and I was introduced to her, but we weren't really friends from the get-go. She was dating somebody at the time. This was probably what, 2018. Yeah, 2018. And so, like I was like, oh, like she's kind of cute or whatever. I think there was a cover band that was playing that night, and it was a really beautiful like little venue by the water. So anyway, she caught my eye, but she was dating somebody. I just like, all right, whatever. I was doing my thing. But then a few months later, like I kind of ran into her again, and we started talking about food because I'm a big foodie and I'm always posting like my pictures and bragging about all these like different spots that I was exploring. And I think it was like we were talking about like sushi or ramen or something, and she was like, "Oh, that looks so good. Like, I wonder, maybe you'll take me one day." Or it was something crazy like that. And so we just started chit chatting back and forth, over time, and then because I worked kind of close to where she did. She worked in a like a daycare. Um, and she was over the babies, so she did like the newborns up to like I think a year old. So she
Okay.
handled them very small, and I didn't realize like she was very close to me, to my job, and so I was often like taking lunches and stuff like that, and I was like, hey, like maybe one of these days we'll meet up for lunch or something like that, and so we did. I think it was like Chick-fil-A or something like that.
Cute.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I don't know. That was kind of like our first little mini lunch date. But that's kind of when I knew, like, oh man, like, I really like her. We just had this bond. We were able to talk. I was able to just express myself. And it was refreshing, for me. I had been single for like 2 years, 3 years. So, I was kind of ready to, like, all right, I need to find somebody good,
Yeah.
for me, so I'm not out here in the streets, as they say,
Yes.
and so then I asked her like, hey, like what if we'd like to have dinner, and and she did, and so we went to the Olive Garden, which was like ended up being like our favorite spot to go to for
Cute.
any kind of event, birthdays, things, and anniversaries. She always like, let's go to Olive Garden. I'm like, all right, let's do it. It's those breadsticks and Alfredo sauce. That was
I get
that
it,
Right?
was the
dude.
thing.
I get it.
Yeah, we would always order. Like on our first date, I remember she was like, "Hey, like, I hope you don't judge me, but I'm gonna order like a large like Alfredo sauce like on the side, just so that we
Yes.
can dip
And that's
our."
when you knew you were in love.
I was like, "Baby, you're the one for
I
me.
found the one.
Like, you're speaking my language,
Yeah.
So yeah, and so that's kind of how it started with us, and yeah, you know um the thing that really made me fall in love with this woman, she started to really like care about me, asking me, like when I would get sick, she was like, hey, make sure you have medicine, I'll bring you some if you need some, or even during like my lunch breaks, she would offer to drive over to me and bring me food. I was like, what? Like no one's ever done that for, or offered that to me, you know. And that was just like we were just barely kind of talking, not even dating per se. But one day when I was out at karaoke, with friends, I got just stupid drunk, and she was like, "Hey, are you okay?" She kept checking up on me. I was like, I don't know. I feel, whatever. I don't feel so good. And this girl drove 30 minutes from her house to pick me up, and
Mm.
then took me to my house, which was another 30 minutes away. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and that blew my mind. Like, absolutely blew my mind, because I'd never had anybody be like that caring, and uh just I felt seen and heard for like the first time in my life, and it just I didn't have any words,
Mm.
and that's kind of when that went from being like, oh, I think she's cute and I like her, to, man, this woman is special.
Oh,
and
I
and
love
that's kind
That's
of like how it
beautiful.
really blossomed from there. Yeah.
that's
That's
beautiful.
beautiful.
How long did you guys date before you got married?
So technically we didn't get married, but we spent about almost a year before we moved in together,
Okay.
and so we were kind of like in a process of like trying to figure out our like a living situation, and with school starting, her son and my son were the same age, our Benji and Isaac. So that was also kind of cool, like because our boys could do a lot of the same things together, and they liked basically everything. It was like Minecraft, and like I think Sonic was popular,
Of
Spider
course.
Man. So it was like a match made in heaven, for the boys. And so yeah, I think after a few yeah, I was after like 6 months of dating, we were like, okay, like we may actually try to become one family, and really just give it a go. And we did, so yeah, it was like less than a year or so that we ended up, she moved into my place, and we made it a home.
Hmm.
Love that.
That's
Oh,
great.
and how long until you guys got pregnant?
So she wanted a baby right away, and she told me this from the
Girl
get
after my
go.
own heart, I get it.
Yeah, she was. So the biggest thing with her was she was kind of like a go getter type of person, like a personality, I would say. And so she always like felt like, hey, I don't know why or how, but I need to have a girl, and I need to have this girl now. Like she was just adamant that the next baby she was gonna have was gonna be with me, and that it was gonna be a girl, and she just felt this sense of urgency that was unexplainable. Yeah, it makes sense now,
Yeah.
right after the fact, but back then I was like we got all the time in the world. Like what's the rush? What's the urgency?
Yeah.
But it really, was something that we loved each other. We really just felt so connected. I'd never bonded with anyone like that in my life. Like we both just said, okay, you know what, screw it, like let's
Let's do
do
this.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do this. So we actually did we did get pregnant once before we had Bella. So we had a miscarriage,
Okay.
probably like two, yeah, it was probably 2 or 3 months prior. And so that kind of made, anyone that's gone through something like that, right, it really it's a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
And so it kind of made us kind of rethink, like, well, is this really the route we want to go? And so kind of just kind of slept on it for a bit. But then out of the blue, like we were like, hey, like, I don't know, maybe, we are pregnant. And when we went to the doctor to confirm, I mean, it was just like mind blowing.
Mm.
It was definitely special. We kept it kind of under wraps. We just kind of wanted to keep that to ourselves for a few
Yeah.
months.
Well,
Of course,
especially after
making
going through the trauma of a miscarriage, like you're scared to share that news because, you don't
yeah, absolutely. I think, and what was interesting was the first time we got pregnant, we felt like we had to tell everybody, right? And I think we told some of our closest people, but not it was not that many people, but it was like within a week of finding out, right? And so that with with Bella, right, we were kind of like, okay, like we don't want to jinx anything or whatever,
Yeah.
like we're just
Yeah.
gonna keep this to ourselves for at least 3 months. And man, that was the hardest secret to keep. Because, like my mom's like, oh, I wonder when I'm going to have another grandchild. And other people just mentioning things. And we're just like, oh,
Oh, I
like
want
I
to
just
tell
want to,
you.
I want to tell them now. Right. And so we ended up revealing our pregnancy at Christina's parents. They had a anniversary. I think it was like 30 years. And so they had a dinner. People like flew in and drove in from like out of state or out of town. And she was like, I'm gonna do it then. I was like, okay, so everyone's gonna see your dad kill me like in front of everybody. Okay,
This
so
will be
I
fun.
was nervous. I was so nervous. And they had like their little anniversary thing that they did, and they came out and celebrated. And then it was time to open up presents. And so we had this little like a box, and then it had like a little onesie, and the little pictures from
Yeah.
the doctor. And they were kind of looking at it, confused. Well, mom already knew it. She was like, "Oh, like but dad was just like in shock, like, what am I looking at?" And he's just like, you're looking around, and it was funny because he was like thinking other people were pregnant besides her, so it was kind of funny. And then she's like,
Who's the
"No,
one?
like it's me, Dad." And so, but it was a beautiful moment. I think a few people like caught it on tape and stuff, and it was just an amazing, beautiful moment. At that moment, I was welcomed into the family,
Mm,
with open arms, and it was just, and the beautiful thing about it is that I'm still very close to them. You know,
Good, good.
we're
that's
actually like,
wonderful.
later this evening, gonna meet up and just hang out, and we still do things and events and birthdays and whatnot. So it's
I love that.
That's
baseball
great.
games and things like that. So we're still very close. And I'm just very fortunate because I know a lot of people in our position being widowed, it's not always the case. You kind of see a lot of just bad sides of people sometimes, when everything's kind of all said and done after the
Hmm.
fact and your person's no longer here, and it really sucks because that's just like uh you know another thing to kind of grieve about. Sometimes you not only lose your person, but you also lose like family,
That
and you
family.
lose
Yeah.
kids, and you lose people that once cared so much about you, and so it's really like it just adds on to the losses
Yeah.
you know
That's so nice, especially with her having her own son from previous relationship. It's so beautiful to know that they didn't take that relationship from you and
hmm
you were able to still continue to have that with him. So,
That is
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's for me, it's very important to be present in my son's life, Isaac, right?
mhm.
And I do the best that I can, especially now that I'm like working, a lot. But I still try to do my best to really like be that dad, who's present in their kid's life. So
That's great.
it's just a blessing. I know a lot of people who are not as fortunate as me, and it really, to see the effects of like losing a son. It brings out all kinds of depression and feelings and things like that, and so I'm so lucky. I'm very blessed by far.
Well, do you want to share what happened?
Yeah, this was during the whole like COVID um timeline. 2021 is kind of when it started. We at least here in Texas, right? I know in other states like COVID kind of affected everyone differently and at different times, and
Mhm.
with lockdowns and stuff. But here in Texas, things were still very open for the most part. Most of 2021, up until about the summertime, right? That's kind of when people started, really taking masking serious and staying inside and avoiding people and things like that. And so, we kind of felt like, well, the worst is over with, right? But then school started, around July, August, right? Kind of everything kicks into high gear, and you got all these uh, stores that are crowded, and everyone's trying to get school supplies, and so she got sick right around when school had just started for the boys, with COVID, and at first we kind of felt like it was just, oh, it's a bad flu, it's a bad, respiratory thing, and we kind of saw her struggling with it a little bit, but then she was like getting better and getting better, and so it was COVID's one of those weird things where like it kind of gives you this false sense of like you're
Recovery.
recovering,
Yeah.
Yep.
but then there's stuff going on the inside that you can't see, right? And so for us, we felt like, okay, like max 1 week or two, right? And so she wasn't working, right? We had just had Bella. So kind of give a little bit of backstory. We had Isabella in April of 2021. Um, she got sick in August. And so, she was, I was working, a lot. She was staying at home, taking care of the baby. Right, she was like 4 months around this time, and just doing just running errands and things like that, taking care of whatever needed to be taken care of at home. And so I don't know how or she could have gotten sick, but I'm sure um, maybe running errands, maybe at the school. I don't know, but she started coming down with it in August. We kind of did our best. COVID's a very confusing time because there's so much misinformation out there.
Yeah.
Anybody can just make something and post it, and so there was so much confusion. Even doctors and just medical clinics and everybody didn't really know what was going on. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's just so much confusion out there, and so she started to really struggle with breathing. That was kind of the main thing, and then that ended up turning into pneumonia, and like bronchitis and things like that. So that's kind of when we were like, okay, this is like a lot more serious than just a flu or something. And so over the next like couple of weeks, she kind of just had stayed in bed rest. We went to a few hospitals that kept either rejecting her, because they were only taking at that time, at least here in like the Houston area, um only those who were struggling, like who could not breathe, who what I mean,
Yeah, the
needed to be.
critical.
Right. Everyone else, they were just prescribing, like, I don't know, some kind of like a steroid thing, or maybe some kind of pills that like are supposed to like help help you
Yeah.
in some way. Which she got those, but didn't really do much. She just kept getting worse and worse. And so it got to that point, where she was wheezing, and she was like taking very deep breaths. She couldn't sleep at night. We were doing the whole like keeping her separate from the kids,
Yeah.
and just kind of like self-containing her, and I would just give her whatever I could, but it got to that point where she was like, I can't even go to the bathroom, I can't even take a bath, I need, so I would have to like help her, sometimes help carry her as
Mm-hmm.
best as I could, to the bathroom, or to get her something to eat. And so we went to like a third hospital, because I was like, you know what, like this is not gonna get better. She's at that point, I'm like, she's serious.
Something's
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, like and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but the hospitals are just at this point just saying, hey, good luck,
Yeah.
take this and good luck, right? And so I was lucky to find a hospital that did have space, and so I took her, and thinking, okay, well, like this is gonna be we're gonna get our answers here, and so she was admitted. She was struggling really bad. By the time I left her, I mean, they had to get a wheelchair and all of that. They had to bring like two people just to help her. So that was heartbreaking, just seeing that. And if I would have known that was the last time I was gonna see her,
Mm.
I would have definitely have done things differently. But you know, it's I look back now, and I'm very thankful for her, and the impact that she's had in my life. She's shown me to be uh, strong in ways that I've never known that I could. She's shown me that I can raise the kids, and I try to carry a lot of the advice, and the love that she brought in to the relationship, and I try to give that to the babies, especially after she was admitted. She started to get better, which is crazy, right? This is kind of like the second or third time she was getting better, but then like within a day or two, yeah, it was, I think they told us like they're gonna let her go home after like the weekend. They wanted her to spend like 4 or 5 days there. They had her on this like oxygen treatment
Mm-hmm.
stuff,
Mm.
like a BiPAP or whatever. I don't know, giving her all kinds of things to help her breathe. But then, like, all of a sudden, like it was almost like overnight, she was unable to breathe. She was struggling. She wasn't able to talk, so they put her on this like mask thing. She couldn't speak or anything, but she could text. So we were still texting each other, right? But like her messages were becoming shorter and shorter. We weren't able to like actually talk, right? Because she was like, doing that breathing treatment. And so, I kind of felt in my heart, it was just like, man, this is starting to turn into a situation that is only getting worse almost by the day,
Hmm.
and it's almost like I started to you start hearing about how people were really losing the battle with COVID. That's kind of when I was like, well, she's young. She was only 28. Like, there's no way. This is happening to people that are much older and have all these conditions, right? And she was perfectly healthy, and all of that. So I kept just kind of like, no, like she's gonna be okay. She's gonna do better. But it just the pneumonia in her lungs just kind of spread pretty much all over and made it impossible for her to breathe. So they called me one night. This was probably already about 3 weeks in of being in the hospital. That they said, she kind of had like a panic attack. I guess she was struggling to breathe, and they had to make the decision to put her in what is it called, like put a trach
Intubator.
on her. Yeah, intubator. And so they had to make that decision because they're like, if not, we were gonna lose her like right then and there. And so after that was we the last conversation that we had with her was on Isaac's birthday. It was September 9th, and she sang happy birthday to him, and I trying to make like a birthday like party for him, which we really couldn't because we were all basically stuck at home, and we all
Yeah.
you know we all also had COVID, which was kind of sucked too, and so we were just isolated in our home for like 2 months. But I tried to do what I could, try to make it special for him. And so the last thing we did before, we went to bed was, I called her and I said, hey, like, is it okay if, you sing happy birthday? And she did. And that was literally the last thing that she said um, to
Ooh.
us. And then the next day she was intubated.
You
Wow.
were you said she
Yeah.
was 28 and then you guys got COVID as well, so you weren't able to even visit her.
No, and that was the weird part. The protocol just didn't really make sense. I don't know if it was that hospital's policy or just in Texas in general. Like I've heard so many differing like
Mhm.
things, right? Some people were able to just get in with no problem. Some people had to fight their way to get in. And with us, like our family, with me and even her parents, like everybody was like pushing, like we need to go see her. We need to be with her. And they were like, absolutely not.
Wow.
Under zero circumstances. Doesn't matter if you're sick with COVID too. Like, no, like,
Yeah.
just
I
Just
can't
it was
no.
weird.
imagine how hard that had to have been on her to have this newborn baby at home that she can't even take care
Yeah,
of, she can't love on, and then being separated from you guys entirely and not having any, like,
yeah,
oh god, that breaks my heart for her. I
yeah.
can't imagine how scary that had to have been.
Yeah. What was interesting was, you know, the same night that she passed, she had these nurses that she got very close to, and they got close to her, and they were like, that woman loved you so much. You have no idea. This woman adored you, and she adored her babies, and she just kept talking about her family, her little family that she loved so much, and she just couldn't wait to get better and go home. And so I know, we were always like top of mind. Doesn't matter if she was able to speak, if she was conscious or not. We know that she loved us, and that's a lot of what's kept me going.
Yeah.
To keep pushing no matter what situations I'm in, no matter the darkness that I felt, the loneliness that I felt. Like I know that no matter where I'm at, I can always feel that love.
Yeah.
And
That says a lot about who she was as a human and how well she loved you guys that you can still feel that.
yeah, no, she was definitely special. And I gotta say, there's a few things that when I think of Christina is three things. One was, of course, her love was unconditional. I've never felt that love in my life like that. Nor I don't know if I ever will, but I hold on to that dearly. Because it was loyalty, it was compassion, and this woman never asked for anything in return. She was never the type that was like, hey, well, you like buy me all these things, or you need to do all of these things for me. All she wanted was just to be taken care of, loved, and you know what I mean, for that to be reciprocated back to her, and to build a family together. I mean, she just was a very, very simple in terms of that. And also, she was very funny too. I would say she was kind of bougie, because she liked to wear these like cat like kimonos, and like these
Okay, okay.
little, she liked tigers and cats and cheetahs and things like that. So sometimes she would wear like that, like cat print and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And I would
Mm-hmm.
just joke with her, like, she liked to get her nails done. And she would always often like ask me like, hey, what color should I do? Or, hey, I did French tip last time. Do I want to do like, something else? And, so she would like call me or FaceTime me like at the shop, like salon, nail
Oh.
salon, and be like, hey, like, so babe, which nails, and like, look at this and look at that. And so I'd be like, at work, and I'm like, hey, telling everybody, hey, I got to take this call real quick. And,
This is real important.
but yeah, 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 yeah. And so I'm over here like picking nails and stuff, and while the house is burning down at work, so but yeah, I did it for her. I loved her so much, and you know she was very appreciative of our love, and I was too. We did so many we have so many plans. We had, what sucks is, our relationship was only we were only about 2.5 years in,
Mm-hmm.
from the time we met to the time she passed. um it
How long
felt
was
like a
she?
lifetime.
How long was she intubated before she ended up passing?
So she was intubated, so September 10th, and she passed October 4th, so about less than a month. Yeah, it was about 3 weeks or so. Yeah.
And you couldn't go
um
visit her at all.
Nothing, nothing. Yeah, the only thing that they would let us do, which is kind of silly, in my opinion, was like they had a tablet that they had there, like
That
a
you
like
could
a
sort of
iPad.
FaceTime.
Yeah, but I was like, well, like, what's the point? Like, yeah, maybe she can hear me, but it's not the same as actually being there
Yeah.
with her. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And was wild, which a lot of people don't know. She actually woke up. She
Oh.
she woke up. I think about 3 days before she passed.
Ah.
She Yeah, which the doctors couldn't explain that. They're like, we don't know how she was sedated. She also had like there was another thing that they did. I forgot what it was, but basically it like relaxes the body, but the other one actually puts them to sleep, like an anesthesia. So
Yeah.
basically they put her in a coma,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so they're like, we don't know how this happened, but she woke up and she was, kind of panicking and kind of like, where am I? Kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Like, anybody would. And so, that kind of tells me, she was looking for us.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was kind of like, where's my family? That's why I really do believe like we were just always on her mind. Because
Absolutely.
I'm sure
Yeah.
she was like, I need to hold my baby. I need to
Yeah.
see my boys. And so, um,
She
it,
was
it really,
so young. Did you get any answers as to why COVID hit her so hard?
honestly not. I've talked to so many doctors, nurses. The thing is that everybody kept giving me hope. You
Mm-hmm.
know, all the nurses were like, "Hey, you know, I've seen a lot of cases, but she's got like the best chance out of anybody because of X, Y, and Z." And
Yeah.
you know, it's just one of those things that it's just I don't know. I
Wow.
wish I knew. You know,
Yeah.
maybe the only factor I can think of was maybe because we had just had Bella, maybe her immune system just wasn't where it needed to be.
Yeah.
But man, she was pretty healthy for the most part. A lot of energy. You know, if you pissed her off, I mean, this woman was like, she'll let you have it. You know, or if they like brought the wrong order, you know, or something wasn't right. You
No,
know, I'm kind of more of like, hey, it's okay, babe. Don't worry about it. She's like, no, like they need to come and,
they're gonna
you
fix it.
know,
Like, no, no.
yeah,
My man ordered something different. Come fix it.
yeah. So, you know, that's kind of like more like how she was, which is awesome. I loved it, you know, because oftentimes I would just look at her just for the entertainment side of it. And I just be like, okay, I see it. And then she would flare her nose, like her nose would start to flare. And she was very light complected, so like her cheeks would get very red.
Mm.
So I would just have a ball, just like laughing, you know,
I love that.
laughing at her and just like watching her. But I, you know, I thought that was cute. You know, it's just the thing is like her mannerisms, the way she acted, the way she talked. I loved it all. I loved
Yeah.
everything about this woman. You
Oh.
know, and when you're that much in love, you know, it's like you don't see any faults. You
Yeah.
Yeah.
know, and that's your perfect person. I mean, that's, you know, that's who I felt was I was gonna end up for the rest of my life. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so it's you know, it sucks. You know, sometimes you have that it's kind of like a wake up moment where you're like, dang, like, you know, you pinch yourself. You're like, dang, I really am here, and they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it really sucks sometimes. You know, but hey, you know, we're here and we got to make the best of it. And you know, I'm of the mindset that you know, as long as my babies are here, I'm gonna do what I can to fight for them, to advocate for them, and to really do the best that I can. Right, especially um, trying to make the goals and the visions that Christina had and make them come to life. And so I feel like that's like a big purpose of my life now.
Yeah.
I love that. I love watching you be a dad is like I love watching it because you're so in love with those babies and it oozes out of you and it's beautiful to watch and I know that she'd be very proud of you.
Um, Thank you. Yeah, I love my babies. They, you know, of course, they do drive me nuts sometimes, but like, who doesn't, right? You know, they're now Isabella is about to turn 5 next month. And that girl is just something else, just like her mama sometimes. Man, she's a little
Uh,
firecracker. And then you know, and then the boys are 11 years old. They're basically in that preteen stage right
Mhm.
now. So that's been fun. Um, Isaac is in baseball. So I try to, you know, catch the games that he has, and you know, we try to hang out every few weeks. Um, and then yeah, you know, they try to balance all that out with work.
Yeah.
I just started working a few months ago, and it's been keeping me busy, and it's sending me to like different cities and different states.
mm.
So you know, I'm trying to really like balance, you know, like work life, home life, and you know, just make it all function somehow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
We've had a lot of females who've lost people, like a lot of women on our podcast, but very few men. And what was it like for you going through grief and losing a spouse? Because it's not openly talked about. I mean, we've reached out to a lot of widowers and to get them to come on the podcast, and they're just not comfortable coming on and sharing. What was your experience? Because I feel like we had a little bit more community and more places that we could find something somewhere where we could relate. But I don't feel like the men have that as much. Like, what was it like for you?
Oh yeah, that's a big deal to me. That we as men, you know, not just as, you know, widowers, but just as men in general, struggle to really express what we feel,
Hmm.
not just to other people, but just admitting it to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's like, it's huge. I felt for the longest like, oh, I'm okay. Like, yeah, this sucks, but I'll be all right. And kind of just, um, I ended up just kind of shutting down, and I think 95% of the men out there do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of widowers. I kind of make it my mission to reach out to them whenever there's like someone new in our group, or I see that somebody's struggling. I talk to multiple widowers weekly. And sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's just a chat, messaging back and forth, just checking on each other. And I know how it feels to really feel hopeless. For me, my grief when everything happened, I was kind of in denial, and I think a lot of people are in that denial stage where like, no, like this can't be true or this can't be real, and even after the funeral and everything, I was kind of just like, I'm not gonna accept this. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna accept it at all. And I think it really hit me because she passed in October. It really hit me on her birthday. Like her birthday's the day after Christmas, so it was kind of like a double, like
Yeah.
one,
Oof.
Yeah.
two, like um, hit in the gut. Because we had so many plans for Christmas. We were traveling already that year, and we just had more plans, and um, it just like it made me want to just isolate and just not see anybody, and really just stay to myself and just stick with the kids. And as I was like starting to kind of like come alive again and do things for myself, like feed myself, do things for the kids, right? Because like grandparents and other people kind of took over that
Hmm.
for a while, right? Because I was just a hot mess, and I'm very thankful for the support that I had. But at some point I was like, okay, I need to start to you know provide and be that dad again. Um and and so it would really suck because I would start going to like the grocery store. I would start going out just public places and then seeing the families, the couples that are just holding hands and giving each other pecks, would just drive me insane.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went to the grocery store, which was like 2 months after everything. Just I think I had to buy like like toilet paper and diapers for the baby, right? I just had to get that stuff. And I was bawling my eyes out in the aisle, because um one, it was a store we frequented often, and two, I think I had seen like a couple like bickering with each
Mhm.
other,
Okay.
and they were just like calling each other like names, and it was
Mm.
like one of them like walked away like upset, and I'm just like, can y'all just stop for a second? Like, you have no clue like what
Yeah.
someone like me is willing to do to have that again,
Yes.
you know um and so that really kind of started to become the beginning of like me admitting like, okay, like I'm actually grieving. This is what grieving feels like what do I do? And so I started to kind of find outlets and becoming involved in like the Facebook groups, and I'm like, okay, well, like, who else is going through this? Because no one that I know personally has gone through it.
Yeah.
And everyone's just telling me like, hey, it's not a big deal, like you'll find another wife.
Yes.
Like I've
Hmm.
had people say like, hey, I lost my husband too in a divorce. Like it'll
Yes.
be all right.
Yeah.
And I'm
Oof.
like, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
not the same thing, and so unfortunately for me too, like it started to become a thing where I try to find other outlets to deal with it, just going out and drinking and things like that, which I know weren't good for me then, but that was kind of like how I was coping
Yeah.
with it
Yep.
Survival
at the
mode,
time.
just
Yeah.
anything to distract yourself, anything to get you out of bed.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things for me, which was like a saving grace, was in December. Was it December, January? Anyways, it was probably what 3 or 4 months later. I had already been talking to a few friends on the Facebook widow groups. One of them, her name was Vanessa, and Vanessa, she lived about an hour and a half or so from me. And we were just we bonded because both of our spouses were passed from COVID, right? So that was kind of like, oh, like mine did too, and you
Yeah.
start kind of sharing information and data and things like that. So, anyways, Vanessa was made a friend named Mark, and Mark, was very enthusiastic. I think we had chatted a few times. Like he reached out, and I was just like, "Who is this guy? Like, why is he reaching out to me? Like, I don't even know you, dude, or whatever." And then Vanessa was like, "Hey, like, we're gonna go to Houston, in a week or so. Like, do you want to meet up and just have some lunch, and maybe we'll see who else is in your area." And so, they came, and, Mark was like, "Hey, I'm Mark." And, he was all very like enthusiastic. And I was like, bro, why are you so happy? Like, because at that point, I'm just like, screw this, like
Yeah.
this is for the birds, I don't want, it really felt awkward just being in a social setting, in general, but even more so with other widows.
Yeah.
That was my first like actual like meeting up with other people who were going through stuff like me. Um, so in the beginning it was a little awkward, but then it was like, oh, okay, like we started talking and sharing stories, and the next thing you know, we're laughing, we're making jokes, you know, we're starting to bond, and I'm like, okay, this is actually not bad. I can see myself being friends with these people, and the cool thing was that me and Mark really hit it off, and ever since then we had just always been checking on each other, and just been the bestest of friends. So honestly, that whole deal really, I felt like, saved my life, because that was kind of the beginning of everything that we started to kind of build, and the community, and that's kind of when I started to feel like, hey, like me talking and sharing my pain and my struggle and my experience is helping other people. That was like my
Yes.
first time
Yeah.
actually seeing that, and it really gave me like a sense of purpose. Like, okay, like it's not just about me anymore. Like, yeah, my pain sucks, and everything I'm going through is not I don't want to be here, but at the same time, like, hey, like other people had just gone through this last month or this week, and they don't know what to do. And I actually have some experience. I can at least tell them, hey, this is what you can expect. All your
Yeah.
friends are going to disappear. All your family's going to disappear. Everyone's going to turn their back on you, and
Yeah.
you're going to feel so alone and so neglected, like you never have in your life. But hey, I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm here to
Yeah.
talk if you need to at 3 in the morning or whatever crazy time, because I know how it is that you can't sleep. I know how it is that you can't eat, and you're don't want to be here. Like I get those struggles, and so it really has changed my life in that way as well. So it's like turning my grief, but turning it into something uh, more positive than just
Yes.
kind of letting it sit
Yes.
and eat at me, and really let it win, because your grief can definitely win. And unfortunately, especially, I think for all of us as being widowed, but especially for men, something that I know that men struggle even more just sharing.
Yeah.
They'd rather stick to themselves. They'd rather just deal with it on their own. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's like picking up a bottle or a substance, or risky behavior. And it doesn't end well for some of us.
Yeah.
And so definitely that's one thing that I've been very proud to make some awesome widow brothers, and um, seeing them flourish. Some of them are already doing amazing. Some of them have already gotten remarried. Even some of them have achieved their goals, and it's just awesome to see that with some of these men. It's I love it. I love it. But um, it's a struggle. It doesn't, sometimes just because you do good one day doesn't mean you're not going to struggle the next. It's an ongoing process, and I definitely try to encourage people to talk to somebody, you know, professional or even a friend, just somebody that you can really open up, because
Hmm.
some people will just talk about things on the surface level, but they're not really going to talk about the deep stuff that's
Yeah.
really eating at you. So, yeah, so grief has definitely affected me in a lot of ways, but I've, and I still struggle. I have my good days, but I still have my bad days, just like anyone else. I think it's how do we manage it? How do we, try to turn it into something that motivates us, um, one of the things that we're doing, Kaylee's a part of this too. It's like a weight loss fitness challenge that we're doing within our group, and so we just try to motivate people to get up and move, get up and
Yep.
maybe make better choices when it comes to their diet or exercise, and kind of give people courage.
Yeah.
So because grief can just really kick you down and
Hmm.
make you feel defeated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's great.
yeah. You've been a huge resource, I know, for a lot of the different Facebook groups that I'm a part of. Like, you're always in there, and a lot of guys gravitate to you because you are one of the few men who are very vocal and open about your experience, and you don't shy away from sharing it. And I think that that opens the door for so many people to be like, "Oh, okay, it's actually okay if I talk about this,"
Hmm.
or even if they don't talk about it, just being able to see it and recognizing, okay, what I'm feeling right now is normal, and I'm not the only one who's going through this. So I think I think you do a lot for with the widower community.
Oh, I don't do it for to be recognized or anything. I feel like you said, there's really no one else doing it. There's a
Mhm.
few now. Now there are a few guys that are doing
For
it,
sure.
which my friend Matt, he does some amazing stuff. He does like a men's podcast and
Mhm.
solo parenting
We've
thing,
we've
and
done a collab with him on here
Yeah,
before.
he's been on with
oh,
us
sweet,
before.
awesome,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
love that, love that. No, yeah, just men like him, others that are more kind of like in the background, but they have really taught me as well, right? Because I get a lot out of it too. When I'm helping somebody, I've worked with some guys that are dealing with substance abuse, and they're still kind of back and forth some days. But I'm like, hey, trying to talk them into doing something else. And maybe pick up a hobby or something like that, and seeing them, hey, it's been like a month since we talked, but hey, I want to let you know I appreciate you talking to me, and now I'm doing like this hobby or whatever, and
Mhm.
so it's kind of cool to like see that I help someone, but also that gives me courage back because when I'm struggling and I feel like, hey, I just want to, have a crazy weekend and just drink because I'm in my feelings and
Hmm.
things aren't going right, and then I'm like, well, if I'm telling these people to do all of this, positive stuff, like they now serve as influence for me
Yeah.
to do the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we kind of reciprocate that energy, and give each other encouragement, and I really do believe in that because, those people tell me they care about me and that, they see my struggles sometimes. And even though, maybe on the outside, I feel like, I seem okay, I'm not okay. And so people like, once they get to know me, they understand like, oh, I know you're not okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so, it's awesome to, build those types of friendships. So yeah, it's a it's a beautiful thing. It sucks that it comes from a place of hurt and pain.
Yeah.
Um, but we can always turn it around into something that's going to be helpful for others.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on, Will. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
and
Thank you
being
for being
vulnerable.
so
And
vulnerable.
yes, like
Yeah.
it's so beautiful to see. And like Kristen said, we don't have a lot of men that want to come on. Like, there's some that will talk to us about it and then change their mind because it's hard to be vulnerable, for anybody, but especially um, a man, and with the lack of support for that vulnerability. So I appreciate you being willing to do that and opening the door, hopefully for other people to come on and do the same.
This was so wonderful to hear just the man's perspective too, and that you were just so open.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend that's kind of my policy.
Mm,
Is I have to be open as much as I can with people because I want them to really, feel like they can speak on whatever is on their mind. So
yeah,
we,
that's
yeah.
great.
Well, thank you again. Yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right, guys.
All
I
right,
appreciate it.
thanks.
Thank
Bye
y'all. Have a good
bye.
one.
Bye.
Bye.